It's kind of dark right now. This is a story that I felt was worth sharing. It's the only story I can tell completely and truthfully because I believe in it so, so much. Yes, this is a story of some people who have and will live their entire lives in darkness. Now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine a musical instrument. Any instrument. What does it look like? Now, what if you didn't know what it looked like? You've never seen it before in your life. You've never seen anything. You don't know how it works. You've never touched it. You don't even know how big it is. And this is what you hear. Last year, during the summer break, I was a volunteer in the Thai Blind Orchestra. Mine was a story of stuffy tents, reluctant brothers, and moths, but this isn't my story. Their story began several years ago when a Thai man named Alongkotchu, with a heart too big for his own good, gathered some blind children from 3 different provincial schools and sat them down atop a mountain, in front of some Western string instruments. The children instantly fell in love with the music and thus began the 5-year-long journey to show that blind people can enjoy and play music too. I think they succeeded. We have an orchestra now. All right, that wasn't really how it went. These children were a very specific group of people whose voices were often just overlooked. There have always been people who have tried to address this, whether it be by donations of food, money, or other obviously very useful items, but if you were to watch these children receiving their gifts, you'd see that they say thanks in this mechanical way, like they were already so used to being on just the receiving end when they wanted so much to spread joy to others themselves instead. That's how the Thai Blind Orchestra came to be. Music plus giant friendly elephants made normal people happy, and these particular people happier. Alongkotchu had been taking very different demographics all across Thailand for a very long time, and he knew that everything about the orchestra would have to relate to improving these children's initially poor emotional and physical states. Now, don't take that the wrong way, but I've experienced the members of this strange group firsthand many times, and we are talking about an amalgam of some children who had never left their homes or schools before, some children who don't have their parents anymore. They don't fight, they don't argue the same way you'd expect one of us to, because they can't afford to. They are constantly relying on someone else for help, maybe one of their friends with a low field of vision, a teacher, or a volunteer. Heck, they had to be told what they were about to eat. But then again, they laugh, and they chatter and play games. They make poses in the general direction of a camera. They joke, they ride elephants and the occasional golden retriever. We have watched movies together. The films had to be narrated by a sighted commentator, but I have yet to see more cookies and popsicles downed in a single sitting, even if shared across some 40 children and adults. Eventually, you'll think of them as children, which they are, with less of the blind. But this talk is about an orchestra, which you're either waiting to hear about or have completely forgotten by this point. Oh, it's true that they practiced. They practiced long and hard, no matter how many times they demanded a pool party. It began just like I told you. The children were sat down in the center of a large room. A couple of violinists were in one corner, violists, cellists, and bassists in the other. The sound of a violin would start from the right, and then the room would go silent. Then the sound of a cello would drift in from the left. And so it went on, each instrument playing and switching out. One by one, the children slowly stood up and followed whichever sound they were most fond of, like a fairy tale. It really is something to see your very first tiny violin in the hands of someone far less fortunate, yet clearly far more enthusiastic than you. The children were walked through the parts of their new instruments and then started playing. And they played a lot, plucking the same 3 notes over and over again, whether they had gotten it or not. I was witnessing determination for the first time. And then they moved on to holding the bow, having learned 4 notes, 5, then singing Ode to Joy or The Full Moon Above the Forest against each other for the right to eat dinner slightly earlier. Our solution to teaching the blind complex melodies was Braille Notes. The Thai Blind Orchestra is the 3rd blind orchestra in the world, the youngest and the only one to utilize Braille Notes. The notes are kind of like this. One of the things about being blessed without sight is the greater hearing ability. We, as volunteers and tutors, we agreed that as long as these children couldn't see, they couldn't be distracted. It's how they got to try so hard and play so well today. We've performed for our friends both in Khao Yai and Bangkok. We've been covered by the likes of the AFP, Al Jazeera, the Bangkok Post, and most local papers you could name. We've had the honor of performing for Her Majesty Princess Serinthorn. Let me tell you about a cute little song we play called The Story of a Starfish. The lyrics describe a star who was rejected and teased because he didn't shine like the others. This star leapt from the heavens to the earth, forming a beautiful comet's tail behind him. It was the only tail in the whole night sky. While the other stars watched awestruck, he had splashed down in the ocean. He found himself surrounded by fish of all shapes and colors. No one judged him in the sea because they were all so different. This star lived out the rest of his days content as a starfish. I could have told you more about Alongkwa Chu Gao, about the other volunteers or the amazing people we've performed with, but I thought this ought to be confined to just their story. Everything we do is for them and about them. It's been a long, hard, and whimsical journey, a tale of some people who stopped and listened to a voice, gave it an opportunity, and allowed it to grow. We have become touched by and heard from some people who can, amusingly enough, only touch and hear. And now, all the attention we've been getting lately has only helped us make sure that everyone is first well-fed, and secondly has an instrument to play. The only way we had and have enough instruments was through the donations of various generous friends, people who got word of this project and then were interested, kind of like you right now. At the start of this, I lied when I said that this was a story I could tell in its completeness. It's not complete, it's only just begun. I'd like you all to be a part of this story, a member in this orchestra, a volunteer, or at least someone who knows that it's happening. It was only part of my job as someone who cares to share this with as many people as possible. Let me know if I succeeded. Thank you. Enjoy.